Luncheon of 2023, and thank you for celebrating National Travel and Tourism Week with us. It's wonderful to see so many of our members, volunteer leaders, and public officials in the audience right here at the Orange County Convention Center. We have a packed program ahead with several special guests and an exciting announcement at the close of the show. But first, please enjoy your lunch, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes to start the program. Thank you so much for being here.
So we're about 1 minute away until showtime. So we're getting ready, going with our main event. We're getting ready to start our main event. Please direct your attention up here as we begin to continue our presentation for today. So I need everyone to put their hands up in the air for me one time to celebrate travel and tourism. Come on, let's get those hands up in the air, folks, one time. Let's hear it for Orlando. And now, please welcome back to the stage the president and CEO of Visit Orlando, Cassandra Mate.
That was a quick lunch, but continue to enjoy. Well, welcome again, everyone. We are so delighted to have you here. Hopefully you caught a glimpse of this amazing video that is the brand new Luminary Nights on the Green projection show in Creative Village in downtown Orlando. This was just the unbelievably real 1-minute snippet of the 20-minute show dubbed Awakening, that brings the Orlando sign to life. With the Orlando Economic Partnership, we created this as one of our Orlando Unbelievably Real culture projects, which brings Unbelievably Real brand to life in a unique way for our destination. I encourage all of you to check out the full show, which runs every evening at dusk until 10 p.m. We have an awesome program in store for you today. We are celebrating National Travel and Tourism Week and the huge impact that the travel industry makes on our community. We have one of the most recognizable faces in travel television with an inspiring message. And if that's not enough, we will close out the show with an exciting announcement about our 2022 visitation. So do not leave early. You don't want to miss any of it. To begin, I'd like to first recognize the elected officials who have joined us today. If you could, please rise when I say your name. From Orange County, you'll hear from him in a minute, Mayor Jerry L. Demings. District 3 Commissioner Myra Uribe. District 4 Commissioner Maribel Gomez Cordero. And Comptroller Phil Diamond. From our state legislature, District 43 Representative Johanna Lopez. And representation from the Office of District 38, David Smith. From our federal government, we have representation from the Office of U.S. Senator Rick Scott and District 9 Congressman Darren Soto and District 10 Congressman Maxwell Frost. Please join me in thanking our elected officials. I would like to thank our partners that make events like this possible. Of course, the Orange County Convention Center. Thank you, Mark, and your team for hosting us and the amazing service. And thank you, Sodexo. Aren't you enjoying that amazing, fabulous meal? Yes. Cybus Productions for their creative solutions in audiovisual productions. Our tourism ambassadors, their elevated membership investment supports our programs and events. And many of the companies that have stepped up to be our table sponsors. Without your support, these types of gatherings would not be possible. Thank you. Today, we have a special guest representing our presenting sponsor, Brightline. Patrick Goddard is the president of Brightline. He is responsible for the company's multi-billion-dollar intercity passenger rail development and expansion that will connect Central and South Florida. As Patrick makes his way out to the stage, here's a quick look at the latest from Brightline.
Get ready to ride high speed to Orlando. Ride roomier with more space to kick back. Ride tastier with onboard meals and drinks. Ride happier with 16 daily departures. Ride cushier with premium lounge perks. Ride brighter to Orlando. Adult smart fares from $79 and kids from $39. Ride brighter at GoBrightline.com.
Welcome, Patrick Goddard. Welcome. Well, Patrick, we all are very excited about this expansion that's coming very soon. And so I wanted to ask you if you could take us back a little bit, how we got here and why you all chose Orlando.
Thanks. It's a real honor to be here amongst these distinguished guests and such an important industry for not just Central Florida, but the whole state. High-speed rail has been discussed in this state for decades. Our parent company owned the infrastructure, the train tracks that went from Jacksonville all the way down to Miami that Henry Flagler built over 100 years ago. We just needed to connect it to Orlando, which we are on the precipice of completing very, very soon, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. So you got 40 million people traveling between Central Florida and South Florida annually by car. It's time for a better way to travel. This is a no-brainer. We're excited to be able to offer Central Florida and South Florida a better way to connect from end to end.
And from a Visit Orlando perspective, you know, a successful destination, accessibility is absolutely critical. So many of our international visitors are used to train travel as an example. How do you see domestic and international visitors utilizing Brightline, and have you gotten any feedback from these audiences?
Yeah, I mean, we know that there's millions of domestic and international travelers into South and Central Florida who are now going to have the option of taking a train versus driving. This is a constituency of travelers who are already pretty familiar and comfortable traveling by train, or it's something that they're very excited to do for the first time. We've already gotten a lot of feedback from our international and domestic audiences that they're ready to ride on Brightline and eliminate the stress of driving. Brightline is going to make it easier for travelers to extend their trips and broaden their experiences in the state of Florida. For example, if you're traveling into Miami, you can easily take a trip and extend your trip into Orlando and spend some days at the attractions that are offered here. Brightline is going to be available not just through our website and our app, but also through all the various travel advisors, including your preferred travel agent, key online travel agents, the global distribution system. This is going to allow for a much better packaging and an all-inclusive vacation. I want to recognize the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority for their foresight to create an intermodal hub, which is now the home of Brightline's Orlando station. Our adjacency to this airport is going to be transformative for passengers who have direct flights into Orlando who may be able to go elsewhere, and for South Florida residents who can easily access outbound flights. Finally, thank you. Finally, Brightline knows that the train portion of the trip is the interstitial part of your trip. You need to get to the station and from the station to your final destination. So Brightline Plus is going to be able to offer a seamless way for you to do that through the ticketing process and get you access to Ubers, shuttles, and rental cars at either end.
So, not to put you on the spot, but we are all very anxious, and someone that sells the future of Orlando and Central Florida. When can we buy our ticket, and when can we get on that first train?
Well, you know, it's funny, I haven't been asked that question before. So we're working on a number of very critical milestones. We're going to complete construction here towards the end of this month. We will be announcing ticket sales, could be as soon as next week, where we're going to announce ticket sales for a future date. That date is going to be beyond what our actual revenue start date is, We've got a lot of work to do to complete the construction. There's a rigorous verification of that construction and a certification process with the FRA. Once all of that work is completed and we have better visibility of a start date, we'll announce the revenue start date. But it is going to be this summer. And as I said, we will be announcing ticket sales. Could be as soon as next week. We're already testing trains on the east-west. So if you're passing by on the 528 Expressway this week potentially and next week, you're going to see trains blowing by at 125 miles an hour, which is exciting. So we are at the finish line. What I would say is, so you're going to see those tickets on sale. You're going to have tickets starting at $79 one way. In our Smart class, you're going to have $39 fares, so the kids' fares will always be 50% of the Smart fares. We will also have a 25% discount for parties of 4 or more. Our premium class of service, which is an all-inclusive experience, is going to be offered starting at $149. So, plus we have corporate packages. We have a booth out there. We've got some sales folks sitting at our tables. So if you're interested in a corporate product, if you're going to travel a lot or your team is going to travel a lot, we have products for you. So we look forward, here at Brightline, we look forward to welcoming the world aboard our train this summer.
Well, I know we're very excited, and thank you, Patrick. This is an exciting time for Orlando as we continue to evolve by increasing access to more visitors and residents for easy to get to our destination a whole lot easier. We will be patiently waiting to hear that announcement. I know a lot of our customer base internationally are very excited about this as well. But thank you for being with us here today and being a sponsor of our program.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak to this group. Thanks so much.
Patrick. Appreciate it. Thank you. Today, we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of National Travel and Tourism Week. During this annual event, we recognize the contributions of the U.S. travel industry by spotlighting the essential role that travel plays in driving economic growth and innovation through the theme this year of Travel Forward. At Visit Orlando, we've been celebrating all week with a full schedule of activities. We recognize law enforcement, TSA, and Border Patrol for welcoming our visitors and keeping them safe. We hosted a breakfast event with the leadership of the Chamber of Commerce that are all across our community. Our staff at Visit Orlando, as well as the Orange County Convention Center, volunteered at Second Harvest Food Bank. And today, we have nearly 900 uniting in celebration. To kick off this busy calendar of events, Orange County Mayor Jerry L. Demings presented a proclamation on May 2nd in honor of National Travel and Tourism Week. This proclamation declared that the key role that tourism plays in Orange County and our community. And it is my honor to welcome him here today. Welcome, Mayor Demings.
Make you smile. Yeah, it's a blessing.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
All right, all right. Want to start this. Bonjour. Good afternoon. Mucho gusto. Thank you. Good afternoon, Orange County. It is indeed my pleasure to be with you here today for Visit Orlando's annual meeting during National Travel Tourism Week. I'm even wearing my golden pineapple today in recognition. So far, in 2023, our tourism numbers are setting a record pace. Thank you to Visit Orlando's board and President Cassandra Mate for their leadership. We are in our second year of an unbelievably real campaign with a strong presence in major domestic and international markets. Thanks to our theme parks, the hospitality industry, and Visit Orlando, Orange County continues to be the #1 travel and tourism destination in the world. Join me in giving our travel and tourism partners another round of applause. Thank you to all of you who are here in the room. I'm just thrilled that we are hosting today's meeting at our award-winning Orange County Convention Center. We're proud to be celebrating 40 years as the center of hospitality. Let me share a few highlights from our convention center. For the 2022-2023 fiscal year, we are projected to host 162 events with an estimated 1.5 million attendees and $2.8 billion in economic impact. In the first quarter of 2023, we have already hosted 52 events generating $753 million in economic impact from over 360,000 attendees. In addition, Orange County's tourism industry set another record in March of this year. We collected just under $39 million in hotel tax collections. That is the highest March collection on record. In fact, it is the highest monthly collection in the history of collecting the tourist development tax. We also celebrated a milestone in last year's tourist development tax dollars in terms of collections. We collected $336 million, and reserves now exceed $300 million. At least that's what the Orange County Controller, Phil Diamond, tells me. With these record collections, I impaneled the Tourist Development Tax Citizen Advisory Task Force to review and provide input to the Board of County Commissioners and the Tourist Development Council on potential uses of future unallocated tourist development tax revenues that meet current guidelines in Florida statutes. The TDT Citizen Advisory Task Force is comprised of a diverse cross-section of Orange County residents with representation from various geographical and socioeconomic groups, including the tourism industry. The task force will meet frequently over the next several months and anticipates completing their work in July of this year. This year's Visit Orlando theme, Moving Forward, is befitting as our community just unveiled Bright Line's passenger rail station at the Orlando International Airport. This is a remarkable milestone in our community as we continue transforming the transportation experience for our residents, workers, and visitors. Not only will Bright Line provide our residents and visitors with a world-class experience, but it will also significantly impact our economy and how we conduct business in this region. It will be the first stop for many who will be visiting our community with features that will be attractive for both business and leisure travelers. Most importantly, the station lays the foundation for creating a true multimodal transportation system. It has the capacity to grow our transit system and someday have connectivity between the airport, downtown Orlando, the convention center, South International Drive, and even Tampa. As I conclude my remarks at this time, I want to congratulate our industry professionals as we celebrate National Travel and Tourism Week. This week demonstrates how integral travel is to our economic growth, our community, and our quality of life. Thank you. And let's move Orange County forward together.
Wow. So are we feeling good today? Come on, we're going to try that again. I said, are we feeling good today? Come on. There we go. So, nobody is feeling better than Visit Orlando board chair Terry Prather, and he's going to be making his way up onto the stage.
I feel good.
I knew we'd get it for you.
Thank you, and I do feel good. And thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Dimmons, for your leadership and continued support of the travel and tourism industry. We're grateful to have you as our leader and grateful to have you here today with so many members of our industry. As we celebrate National Travel and Tourism Week, Mayor Dimmons has said before, the travel industry is directly connected to the success of our community. The travel industry plays an important role in driving economic growth, creating jobs, and supporting communities across the country. A thriving travel industry moves our nation and our community forward. But I know I'm preaching to the choir. Some of the best and brightest in the industry are right here today, and thank you for being here. You know the impact the industry has on our community. You live it every day. At Visit Orlando, one of the priorities in our strategic plan is to educate our community on the value of tourism. I've talked before about being loud and proud about working in this industry and the benefits of tourism to our community. And today I'm pleased to announce that the message will be spread wider than ever before. On May 8th, the Visit Orlando team launched a local campaign to educate residents about the benefits and impact of the tourism industry. Messaging will focus on how residents benefit from the TDT, or Tourist Development Tax, that tourists pay, the venues created because of the money generated by tourism, and the job opportunities that tourism creates. Throughout the year, you'll see these ads through a variety of sources, from newspapers to social media, and to ensure the message is spread far and wide, it will get out in many, many forms. But that's not enough. We need you. We need everyone here today. And I ask you to share these benefits with your circle of friends and family. And we've made it easy. So if you take out your phone and scan the QR code, everyone's doing it these days. They used to be out of fashion, but now they're back. And you scan this code, and you'll find a toolkit. And this toolkit gives you ready-made social media posts that are easy to share. So please stop right now, take a moment to scan the QR code and share it now and even later. You can help make a difference. Another aspect of this campaign is promoting the opportunities our industry provides. Tourism sustains nearly 400,000 jobs in our community. These jobs range from entry-level positions for teenagers learning soft skills, all the way to executive positions managing theme parks, general managers of hotels and restaurants, and much more. Many of you know that my first position in tourism was in the maintenance department at SeaWorld, Texas in 1988. That was the beginning of my career path that took me all the way to becoming the park president of the world's largest marine life theme park, SeaWorld Orlando. I suspect many of you have a similar story of where your career began. It may have been a ride attendant, a lifeguard, a server, a security officer, or so many other areas. Visit Orlando is working to gather these stories to share broadly about the possibilities of our industry. As an example, here's a quick preview of some of the stories we're working on to show how Orlando has opportunities for all.
My name is Barb Bowden. I'm the Area Managing Director at Loews Hotels Universal Orlando. I always wanted to be in the hotel business. I traveled with my family when we were younger, and I was always just mystified and loved looking around hotels and kind of wondering behind the scenes how they worked. When I went on to college, I studied hospitality and management at Missouri State University. My first job after college was at the front desk of the Buena Vista Palace. I worked there for a couple of years and then went to join the opening team of the Peabody Orlando. After kind of working my way up in many operational roles and revenue management, ended up as the Vice President General Manager. And then shortly after that, joined here the family at Loews Hotels Universal Orlando. There are so many different jobs in hospitality. I think most people know front desk, maybe most people know restaurants, but they have no idea that this really is kind of like a small city. You know, we have technology, we have sales, marketing, revenue management. We even have a job here that's a rum captain. Is that not the coolest job? I think Orlando is such an amazing place to live. We have just amazing arts, we have sports, we have restaurants, we have the natural beauty of Florida, and that's really what I fell in love with in this hospitality community. And that's what makes working in Orlando unbelievably real.
My name is Stephen Lewis. I am the owner and creator of Gideon's Bakehouse, or as my business card says, the sublime prince of the esoteric order of cookie. Baking is my hobby. I still struggle to think of it as something I do professionally. I was a touring musician, and I had a botched surgery on my left hand that ended my music career earlier than expected. So instead of playing victim to a bad situation, I tried to think about my childhood and what I wanted to do when I grew up. So I started baking again, and I started selling cookies out of my house. And people seemed to really enjoy it, and I ended up with a 3-month waiting list. I prepared for my pop-up at East End Market by pre-making what I thought was 3 weeks worth of dough. And on the very first day, all of it was gone by 1 o'clock. And it was that one moment that I realized, like, the universe shined on me and said, this is what you're supposed to do. We would get people from all over the world that saw us on Instagram, that learned about us through a YouTube video, just as a pop-up. The grand opening day of Gideon's at Disney Springs, 30 minutes after we opened, the wait to get inside was 12 hours. In a lot of ways, running Gideon's, growing Gideon's, being Gideon's is easy for me because it's me. I think that's how you separate yourself from the norm, is by being authentically you. And my hope is that other people find what I do special as well. And that is what makes working in Orlando unbelievably real.
Those were just two examples of how opportunities exist in this industry like no other. If you have a similar story or know someone who does, you can use that same QR code to fill out a form to get in touch with the Visit Orlando team. Your story can inspire future leaders of our industry, and we all have stories. There are many paths in our industry, and with a wide range of cool jobs, the industry took me down a path to meet a very special young man many years ago. When I retired from SeaWorld, I had an opportunity to work in the local neighborhood and doing community work. And about 8 years ago, I had the chance to meet this young man, and he just inspired me to want to do more work to help our community. So I've dedicated my life now to just being sort of a conduit between our industry and the people that live in our community. So this young man, today, I have the honor of bringing him to you to show how passionate he is and how good he is. Today, I have the honor of welcoming and introducing Sean Welcome. He's the Poet Laureate for the City of Orlando. Sean has traveled all over the United States with his gift of words. He's written NBA commercials for the Orlando Magic, provided creative consultation for many notable organizations, included the University of Central Florida. Sean will share some of his words with us today. But I have to say the most fascinating thing about Sean, he does so many things, and he's got a house with 5 kids running around, little kids. And I always tell him he makes it look so easy. He has customized a performance to celebrate Visit Orlando and the new mural downtown that encompasses so much that is unbelievably real about our community. So let's give a warm welcome to my friend, Sean Welcome.
Orlando, land of the free and home of the waves, where fireworks dilate the eyes of the night sky, bright whites, reds, and magentas bang, spread like spider webs across the constellation. We're just colorful people, creating the culture, comfortable in the winter, using soap suds for snowflakes with no shame. Visitors' symbols of space exploration dangle from keychains. The coast is a quick drive. Atlantic breeze, vibes, where a Sunday stroll through Lake Eola or Lorna Doone won't cost you a dime, and the options for fine dining come a dime a dozen and doesn't feel like the same meal. It is unbelievably real. Ripley's, believe me or not, I've seen orange flames disappear into the black abyss, a sonic booming position for business where innovation is limitless, where high-tech intersects with every industry. Spring bliss, our Orlando, the land of magic and microchips, 500,000 plus college students within 100 miles absorbing the cutting edge of everything under the sun. We take pride in our lions and guardians that govern the magic we run, and we run laps, the flagship destination to put metaverse on the map. Orlando, land of many languages, reflected in the cuisine, where convention center conferences and upside-down buildings share the same streets. We are playful where we meet, creatively serious. We are EA Sports and Steinmetz Hall, Dolphins and Gators and the Millennium Mall and the Florida Mall. We shop and kayak and get in where we fit in, because this expanding global hub either got something for everyone or blank spaces on the canvas waiting for acrylic paint, where your worst day could still feel like your birthday, especially in October. Fiestas and parades. Look, we celebrate days like 407 Day. Land of the free, home of the waves. So much more to reveal. Between the water slides and the 400-foot wheel, we are unbelievably real.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Let's give it up. That was incredible. Wow. Sean, welcome everyone. Woo. I first had the opportunity to hear him share this very poem during 407 Day on April 7th. And as you all, some of you know, 407 Day was inspired by the destination's long-time area code, and is the day that we encourage residents and visitors alike to support local businesses. Visit Orlando, along with the City of Orlando, Orange County, and the Orlando Economic Partnership celebrated 407 Day this year by unveiling the unbelievably real mural on the corner of Orange Avenue and Pine Street in downtown Orlando. Yes, please. This mural, designed by an Orlando artist, is a visual representation of our entire destination. I'm so proud of our new global brand rollout and very excited to share some results with you. In the U.S., we launched the Unbelievably Real campaign last May and rolled out our international advertising in the second half of the year in 8 international markets. These were comprehensive campaigns with advertising, digital, social, TV, and some amazing out-of-home activations in very iconic locations in key markets. One of my favorite was the London taxi cabs. The results calculated by a third party found that our campaign reached 54% of the households in our target markets. It generated more than $8 billion in additional direct visitor spending for our destination. That's $8 billion. Thank you, thank you. This actually means that our investment generated $359 in future visitor spending for each dollar of media that we spent. That is a tremendous return on investment. And we are not stopping there. For 2023, we kicked off our campaign in high gear. One of the best things about Orlando that I think we all can agree is our amazing weather. So early this year, we launched Here, Winter Doesn't Exist in markets that are experiencing cold weather. So we had digital ads in our campaign in key markets that ran timed to weather patterns. This integrated media campaign even included heated bus shelters with our messaging, and we were the first to do that. In New York's Bryant Park, we engaged hundreds of consumers with an activation featuring a fun sun globe photo op, a family skate night, and a client appreciation event. Beyond the U.S., getting back international visitors is a high priority because they stay longer and tend to spend more money. That means more TDT, more sales tax, more money that goes back into our community. Your Visit Orlando team is finding new opportunities to expand our reach and impact. And we follow the research. We identified Quebec as a market with growth opportunity. We now have advertising and PR efforts dedicated to Quebec. Partnerships are key to maximizing our investment. We've been able to broaden our reach with our Unbelievably Real campaign and creative in markets like Colombia, Peru, Chile, Mexico, and the UK because of our partnerships with Brand USA to provide additional funds. So far this year, we've completed missions at some of the most important industry shows like ANATO, World Travel Market, Latin America, and ITB Berlin. A roadshow with 17 members to 3 cities in the UK trained a record number of travel advisors. And at the end of May, we will have a very strong presence at the U.S. Travel Association's International Show, IPW, in San Antonio, Texas. While we are working hard to keep Orlando's leadership position, the reality is we do have some heavy headwinds to face. Issues like travel advisories, visa wait times, and negative perceptions from international travelers around the country are impacting and affecting business. We need to work together to show how Orlando is a welcoming and inclusive destination for all. For example, at Visit Orlando, we have been working closely with our local LGBTQ+ organizations to promote their events and share how Central Florida is for everyone. Yes, thank you. You will see this very clearly when this ad runs on June 1st in USA Today as part of our ongoing multicultural campaign. We must keep investing in our destination as well as our marketing efforts to stay in that #1 position. Orlando doesn't just compete against other cities like New York or Las Vegas. Our competition is entire states like California, or even entire countries like Mexico, Italy, or Spain. This is true for both leisure and meetings and conventions business. For meetings, your Visit Orlando team is busy booking meetings right here at the Orange County Convention Center, as well as in hotel meeting spaces, securing lucrative business for our destination. The first quarter of the year is off to a strong start. Convention hotels have reported 3 straight months of year-over-year growth in occupancy. Groups are reporting record attendance. While this is all amazing and great news to celebrate, we cannot be complacent. Our competition is eager to steal our market share and is investing heavily to do just that. Right now, there are 14 convention center projects in progress across the U.S., such as Denver, Dallas, Seattle, Las Vegas, and more. Orlando had an advantage of opening back and welcoming meetings before many other markets, but now that gap is closing with everyone back open for business. As a community, we do have a lot of decisions to make. As the mayor mentioned, he created a task force to discuss what investments we should be making as a community. Things like improvements at the Orange County Convention Center, Camping World Stadium, and other opportunities for Orlando to stay competitive and not fall behind. Our success has been intentional, and we have to keep working for that. We must evolve, innovate, and reinvest. And it's not always about being the biggest, but it is about being the best, bringing business and creating jobs that benefit our community. Today, you are some of the first to see a new benefit for groups meeting in the West Building of the Orange County Convention Center. In partnership with Orlando Health, which is Visit Orlando's official health and wellness partner, and the Orange County Convention Center, we unveiled the new Orlando Health Virtual Care Center just this week. We invite you to stop by the Orlando Health Virtual Care Center when you depart today. For meetings and leisure guests, the other aspect that's very important is quality dining. Orlando has seen tremendous growth over the last 10 years, so much so, we brought the Michelin Guide to Orlando last year. In the first edition, 33 Orlando restaurants were recognized, including 4 one-star restaurants. In just a few hours this evening, Michelin will be announcing 2023 star restaurants. I expect that we will have some very happy Central Florida chefs this evening. We'll be sure to get back to you with what those restaurants and those designations are. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker. Samantha Brown is a 2-time Emmy Award-winning television personality and travel expert. Over the last 20 years, she has traveled around the world Listen to this, over 250 cities in 75 countries and 45 U.S. states, creating over 200 hours of engaging and informative television programming. In 2018, Samantha moved from the Travel Channel to PBS, and her show there, Samantha Brown's Places to Love, quickly became the highest rated travel program on public television. We are pleased to have Samantha here to share her insights into the emotional value of travel. Please give an Orlando welcome to Samantha Brown.
Appreciate it, Cassandra. Thank you. Hello, how are you? Nice to see you. I spoke at a Visit Orlando event in 2009, and one of the things I remembered so well from that event, the only thing I really remember, it was so long ago, was just the warmth of the welcome. I was really brand new to the scene, and I was scared out of my wits, and I got the nicest welcome from the people of Orlando. So it's really lovely to be here. Thank you, Cassandra, and everyone at Visit Orlando for inviting me to be here today. It's incredible. I have spent now 24 years as a career in travel, and I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that half of that time has just been spent in the state of Florida alone, and then half that time has been spent in Orlando. So Orlando has been absolutely instrumental in my travel career, and so I thank you. It's a real honor to be here. I know so many of the theme parks, your great hotels, your experiences, but we also did an episode just based on the city of Orlando itself, just about your local neighborhoods and your mom and pop shops, and it just opened my eyes entirely to what travel could be, right? And I think everyone around the world knows Orlando, but they don't know the half of it, right? Even I don't feel like I've even touched the surface here, and that's why we're all here, to really understand the depth that is your great city. Like Cassandra said, I'm Samantha Brown, and I've been traveling for, oh my gosh, now it's almost close to 25 years. But in that time, I've been at the helm of 14 travel series, creating over 220 hours of travel television. A few years ago, 5 years ago, I left to produce my own show. I own the series, Samantha Brown's Places to Love, and it airs on PBS. And our very first season, I took home 2 daytime Emmys, one for Outstanding Travel Series and the other for Outstanding Host. And just because I know you are all wondering right now, yes, 2 Emmys do fit in a standard carry-on bag, because if there was one thing I wasn't going to check, or 2 things I was not going to put in my check luggage, it was my Emmys, so I was very excited. But Places to Love really represents what I have learned in my 20-some-odd years of travel. It is about finding the destinations, the experiences, but more importantly, the people we meet when we travel, and the effort that it takes those people to create the experiences that we just get to show up and have, right? Whether it's an amazing meal we sit down to, a work of art and an artist who we learn from, people who have a fierce advocacy for our nature and our public spaces. Because when we meet people who are really good at what they do and passionate, and then we learn how hard they have to work to make it happen, all we as travelers want to do is show up and support that effort. And for me, this completely defines this moment we've been having in travel for a long time, to go where the locals go and to do what the locals do. Because when we connect with locals, we become less anonymous consumers and more a part of a community. So it's called Places to Love, but it's really about people. But I couldn't call it People to Love because no one would think that was a travel show, right? So, Places to Love, that's it. You know, it's interesting. Today they announced that the pandemic emergency is officially over, right? Okay, party hat, woo, all right, woo. And I know everybody here in this room has felt the pandemic very personally, financially. It really has changed travel. And I'm asked, how has it changed from my point of view? And I always come from the point of view of the traveler. And for me, the biggest change I saw was that travelers really need, more than ever, to make travel count, right? We now have a lot of expectations for our travels. We want travel to relax us. We want travel to make us feel fulfilled. We want travel to bring us closer to our friends and our family. We want travel to reinforce our own sense of self. And we want all this to happen in the 5 days we have off, right? But here's the thing. Travel can do all of that for you, no matter where you go and how much time you have. It is all in your approach. So today, I would love to share with you my approach to travel and how I focus on who the local is, what the traveler wants, and where do they intersect? Because where they intersect is a powerful travel experience that makes travel count, but also benefits entire communities. So the most important lesson I learned on how to really connect with community and why that would even be important in the first place as a traveler came right at the beginning of my career. I spent 2 years traveling all throughout Europe in a show called Passport to Europe, where, wait for this, it was my job to see all the greatest hits of Europe. So I was in the Forum in Rome, the Acropolis in Greece, Mount Saint Michel in France, and it was and I was at the end of those 2 years that I was given the official title of the girl with the best job in the world. I even got on the Oprah Winfrey show for women who have the best jobs. It was a long time ago. She went by her full name, right? It was the Oprah Winfrey show. But at the end of those 2 years, I didn't want my job anymore. I was like, this is not for me. And I didn't know what it was. But I just thought, well, maybe you like travel, but you don't love it. And when you are on the road for 220 days out of the year, you've got to love what you do. But then I went to Central and South America. And that is when everything changed. You see, when I was in Europe, I thought that being a traveler was about seeing things, right? So it was about going to museums and castles and cathedrals, and that's really nice, but it just puts me in the past. And I started to learn that in Europe. Travel is about the past. But Latin America doesn't have all the infrastructure that Europe has, right? If a European city has 5 must-see museums, a Latin American city may have 3, none. If a European city has block after block of gorgeous architecture, in Central and South America, it could just be right around that main plaza. But I found that without this intense itinerary of must-sees, I just naturally relaxed, and I spent more time with the culture as it was today. I was no longer in the past. I was in the moment. And that simple act of being in the moment gave me a much more important, rich, authentic, intimate travel experience. The intimacy of travel, these small but tangible moments is what making travel count is all about. And it's something that I have to work really hard to bring to my shows, right? Because if I'm there, then there's also a camera. I've got 2 cameramen. I've got a sound operator, a producer, a director. We, as a group, can really change the energy of a place and how people regard me just by being there. And so I didn't know if I was getting the authentic experience. And what's interesting is, oh my gosh, maybe 15, 16, 17 years ago, Norman Noble. Does anyone know who he is? He was the GM of Grand Floridian. And I remember being in the lobby with him, and he said, we started talking about being authentic. And he said, Samantha, do you know what the definition of authentic is? Well, yeah, kind of. He said, it's how you are and how you act when you don't think anyone's looking. And that has stayed with me my entire career. How people regard me is how they are when no one's looking. But if I'm there, again, I have this whole team of people. So I found that I really needed to separate myself from my crew, right? Sometimes I had a full day just to kind of walk around, see the sights. Sometimes I had 10 minutes. And I learned this really valuable advice when we were in Guadalajara. And we were there for the day, shooting the city. It was on a Saturday. They close it down, and it becomes this great open market where they sell everything from like handmade pottery to socks. And so my crew sits down,
and to eat. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to go for a walk. So I went for a walk. And I found myself in front of this little soda candy shop. And I just stood there looking at it because it was so perfect. And I had my little Canon 2-megapixel camera, take it, looked at it. And then the woman who owned the shop came out from her home next door. And she started to speak to me in Spanish. And I said, oh, lo siento, hablo español solamente un poco, but su casa es muy bonita. And so she takes me by the hand, and she brings me into her home. And she gives me a cold drink, and she starts pointing out the people who are from various parts of the United States, because that's what we did kind of manage to say. I was from the United States. And then she asked me to stay for dinner. I said I couldn't, trabajando, but said, thank you, thank you, thank you. This was wonderful, and I left. So I go back to my crew who's still finishing up lunch, and I say, we have never done this before, but I really want to recreate the moment that I just had back there, because for me, it really represented what being a traveler in all of Central and South America was all about, that people took you under their wing to tell you, to show you who they were. I felt that they knew, hey, you could be in Paris right now, but you're here, and we want to show you who we are. So we all go back to this woman's shop, and there's like 12 of us. We have Guadalajaran tourism with us. We have 2 police officers on ATVs because of all the road closures, and we've got all of our equipment we need to get through. And they see the woman, the PA gives her, they'd say what we want to do. The PA hands her the release that she needs to sign to be on camera. And I don't know if you've ever read a media release, but it is like the worst language you have ever read. It's like, we own your image in perpetuity, from now and, media known and unknown. And it's like, don, don, da, don, don, da, don, don, da, don. And so I see the woman thrust the papers back into the PA's hands, turns on her heels, walks into her home, door slams. So I go up to the PA. What happened? And she goes, I don't know. All I said is, you're going to be on TV. And she left. So I was like, oh. What was I thinking? You can't, recreate something like that. That was between her and I. And I brought the cops to our house, for goodness sakes. Right? So we're all standing around like, okay, well, what do we do next when the door opens? And there she is. And I see she has something in her hand. And all 12 of us are watching her as she slowly puts on bright pink fuchsia lipstick and just says, okay. And then we did the scene. It was great. So I have to jump through a few hoops to get the natural, right, on camera. You don't. So when you are on the search, when you got to get yourself out of the past. That's the most important thing. Put yourself smack dab in the middle of the moment and just see what happens. And I make sure that something happens. And the way that I do that is I go for a walk. Going for a walk is the most important thing that I do, and it's become my main pillar of travel advice. When people ask me questions like, oh, we're going to go to Boston for the weekend, what should we do? We're going to go to Vienna, what do we see? Doesn't matter. Just reserve 2 hours out of your entire trip and go for a walk. Put the phone down and just go down streets because you think they look good. But get out of the tourism centers and go to where the people live and sit down in one of their cafes and just be a part of everyday life. Because everyday life in another part of the world, even right here in Orlando, Florida, is just extraordinary. And this is the very first thing that I do when I arrive. And even though I'm wandering around and it looks like I'm kind of aimless, I do have a mission. And that is, I want to have that moment that tells me I am here. I am nowhere else on earth but right here. And because of that, I won't spend any time in the major attractions in those 2 hours, because that moment that I'm going for is never found in the must-sees. It is always found in the seemingly mundane. Enjoy the mundane will never be a slogan for Visit Orlando. But stick with me. This is a great crowd to talk to. We have been conditioned to think that everything we do as travelers has to be top 5, full of superlatives, change our life big, or it is not worth our time, right? And I know I've perpetuated that in my shows as well, because like I hug pandas for a living, and I go ice canoeing in Quebec. That is an actual sport in Quebec. Aren't you glad you live in Florida? I think it was May. Kidding, I'm kidding. But that is why I love my walks, because when I am on a walk, I am never, ever looking for the exclamation point. What I am on is a search for the comma. Because a comma is where a person, a culture, an entire country expresses themselves. And a comma is where we allow ourselves to just breathe and observe. The most powerful walk I ever went on actually changed me as a traveler in a half an hour. Before the walk, I was one person. After the walk, I was someone completely different. We were shooting in China. We were there for a good month, over a month. It was right before the Beijing Olympics of 2008. And our days are very long, 12 to 14-hour days. We were spending the entire day, a 14-hour day, shooting at the Le Shua Buddha, which is the largest stone-carved Buddha in the world and can be seen from space. When you're in China for any amount of time, you start to realize that everything is the oldest in the world, the largest in the world, and can be seen from space. So there we were. We ran out of water. It was a hot day. It was a national Chinese a holiday, which we weren't expecting, and there were thousands of people. So now we're going back to Chengdu, where we're staying, and it's a 2-hour drive, and we have to stop halfway and have dinner. My crew goes in to have dinner, and I am done. Like, I have had it. I am exhausted. I am homesick. And I'm like, you know what? I'll join you in a minute. I just want a moment alone. And so I was outside the restaurant, and I just started taking in my surroundings. And it was awful. It was like this warehouse district, and the air was brown because of the pollution. And I was like, where are we? And then this led to, what am I doing? Like, I'm here for a month at a time. I would love to start a family. Why am I doing this? And I look, and about a block away is this area of light. And it looked like people were there. So I was like, I'm gonna walk there. So I went for a walk. So I get to this area, and it's just a cement slab that has tons of light, and there are just people like enjoying a park. And there are a group of older women doing exercises, and parents playing with their children, and dogs, and I just thought, and all of a sudden I felt a little bit better. And it was interesting because I didn't see where people lived. I didn't see any what I would think of as apartments or homes. And so I was like, where did these people come from? And of course, people are looking at me going, where did you come from? But everyone that caught my eye smiled. And again, I felt like I was in a safe place. So I sat down and I just took it in. I was like, okay, this feels nice. All of a sudden, 2 little girls on roller skated over to me and started speaking to me in Chinese. I'm like, I'm sorry, no Chinese. And so they kind of look at me and roller skate away. And then they came back. Name. Name. Sam. Your name. And they told me their names and giggled. And then they roller skated away. And then they came back from. And I was like, oh, well, I'm from the United States, but I love China. And this continued back and forth for a little bit, and then I realized, oh my gosh, I have to go back. I never told anyone I was leaving, right? So, oh boy, I mean, I am in trouble. And so I'm leaving this area of light, literally about to go from the lightness back into the darkness when I hear my name being shouted, Sam, Sam. And I look, and it's the two little girls, and their legs and their arms are pumping as they roller skate across the median, and they come to a stop, and one little girl raises her hand, and she just goes, my friend. And I just melted. I melted. And I actually started to shake because all of that negative energy just released. And I just remember thinking, I can't imagine being anywhere else than right here in this place I still don't know the name of. I had been to the Great Wall of China twice. We had a reshoot. We made a mistake. We had to go back. We had the Summer Palace, the Forbidden Palace. Like, I had spent a month trying to absorb a 5,000-year history of a place, but nothing made me feel like I have been to China than two little girls who went out of their way to make me feel like I belonged. And so that's what I always say is my big fish story. That's what I'm always looking for. I'm always looking for that sense of community in a place that I may or may not belong. And a lot of people ask me, but how else do you do that? How do you meet people? How do you connect with locals and the community? And I have a more simpler way than just kind of walking off into the night in China, and that is I create a ritual. No? Oh, I went back, sorry. And there you go. I do one thing, the same time, every single day when I travel. And I know people like in the tourism industry, they're like, that is blasphemy. Create a ritual. We're Americans. We need to cram in as much as possible, right? We're productive on our vacations. And we got to do things like, we got to do breakfast, lunch, and dinner at new restaurants every single day. You never go down the same road twice. Well, I don't believe in that. Because I think if that's your approach to travel, then you can be really bullied by time. I just know that no one after a pandemic wants to be bullied by time anymore. So the antidote to that time bully is to create a ritual, right? So for me, it's just a coffee shop that I'm going to begin every single day at. It's usually a local place that's right around the corner from my hotel. But still a place where I get to feel the ebb and flow of a locale better. And what creating a ritual really does for people, for those of you who really do want to talk to others and locals, is what you're doing is creating a constant. And that constant becomes your comfort. And when you're comfortable, you become confident. And that is when you turn to someone naturally and just say, hey, where would I go to lunch around here, right? That's when we talk to people. Talking to people is the most important part of the travel experience. Travel allows us to meet one another face to face and really care about another person's experience, right? Sure, we want to stand in awe of architecture. Yes, we want to behold 5,000-year history of a place, but we also desperately need to relate to it on a human level. And that only happens when we are connecting one-on-one with people. In my series, Places to Love, we spend a lot of valuable time, broadcast television time, showing me in a conversation. We don't cut the conversation. We don't voice over the conversation. We show the conversation because this is something that is going missing in our daily lives. We don't talk to one another anymore, right? Instead, we place everything on how we communicate onto social media, and that has totally eroded how we treat one another. But travel is where we show up. And travel allows us to relate to one another, even in the briefest of encounters. Like talking to strangers, we totally underestimate the benefit of these spontaneous small moments that give us that sense of belonging. And talking to strangers is tough, right? And we've been told since we were little that it's even dangerous. But you absolutely have to go for it, right? It will change the travel experience between the local and the traveler. It'll make it a powerful one. So as you can tell, building in personal connection into my travels is something that is very important to me. And there are all the things that I do to make it happen. Like even just meeting strangers, we have to make room for that in our lives, right? We have to make those opportunities available to talk to strangers. So there are all the things that I do, like getting out of the past, putting myself in the middle of the moment, creating a ritual, going for a walk. But there's also a really important question that I ask myself. And it's a question you should ask yourselves as well. And that is, what is the emotional value of travel? What is the emotional value of what you do? What your business does, what service you provide? What is that emotional value, right? When we are producing places to love, and we're going to a place like, I don't know, London, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of things that we could cover, right? It is a daunting experience, but instead of creating this massive list of everything I want to do and see, I instead ask myself, but how do I want to feel? Because the emotional value of travel is everything, right? It strengthens the bonds of friendship and family. It reinforces our own sense of self, and this is a value that grows years, decades after even one trip has been taken. And sometimes for us, what is the emotional value of this is a really easy question to ask. Like, for instance, when you're in Huntsville, Alabama, and you're standing underneath a model of the Saturn V rocket, and it's a half a block long, and it's got 5 engines, each as big as a car, and the entire time you're standing under it in 2019, you're just thinking, this is never going to work, right? Because you're so caught up, and then you realize, oh my gosh, it did. It worked, and now we're headed to Mars, right? And it's, it's science, and it's history, and it's like what a country does when we all band together and have one mission in mind. It's an emotional value sandwich. Then there are cathedrals. Thank you. I am not Catholic, so I don't have an emotional tug to a cathedral. I am a traveler who I think has seen every cathedral there is, and I feel like I need to retire. But we were a few years ago in Strasbourg, France, and I kept reading again and again how this cathedral was the heart and soul of Strasbourg, France, that everyone loves their cathedral. So I was like, great, how do we show that? So we reach out to the people of the cathedral in Strasbourg Tourism, and they said, oh, we have a doctor, she's amazing, she does an incredible architecture tour. I don't want to do an architecture tour. Oh, well, we've got a history tour. Oh, she's great. Great hit, all these history, all these stories. No, I don't want a history tour. Do you have someone at the cathedral who's been playing the organ there for decades, and they know the sound of that cathedral when no one's in it early in the morning to what it sounds like when it's filled with people? Do you have a custodian who has taken care of this cathedral, and they know where the worn spots are? Thousands of years, over 1,000 years of where visitors go, pilgrims go, and locals go, so we understand that cathedral. Do you have that person? And I remember they said, you want to talk to our janitor? Yeah, I do. And so then they said we couldn't shoot there. So now I'm talking to Strasbourg Tourism. I'm like, listen, I get it. We're not going to shoot the cathedral. I'll just do a quick stand-up, say the cathedral, it was built in 890, heart and soul of the city. We'll move on. But is something made in Strasbourg, France, that is made like nowhere else on earth, and people there have been making it in the same way for hundreds of years, and they still use the same tools? Do you have something like that? Because we love artisans. We love people who make things with their hands. And I will never forget, there was a silence. And then I hear someone at the other end say, oh, well, there is the cathedral workshop. Was that what you were thinking about? Like, what's the cathedral workshop? Well, it was founded in 1070 when the cathedral was first built to house all the artisans who built the cathedral from scratch. And it has been in continuous operation since that day, has only changed locations once in 1350 because of a fire. They are in their new location since 1350, housing the artisans, and they still use, whenever they can, the exact same tools. Is that what you were interested in? That'll be fine. So we showed the cathedral workshop, and now there are female stone carvers, and you are in the workshop with them, and you learn about the stone that they're using right now and how the cathedral saved the quarry 700 years ago so they could still use the same stone on their beloved cathedral. The red parts are what they're working on, that balustrade. There's the new piece, it's right next to the old piece, and you get to talk to the artisans, and you get to listen to them as they talk about the meaning of the cathedral, what it is like to grow up under a cathedral, to play soccer underneath a cathedral and see people from all around the world come to their tiny little town because of a cathedral. And then we have the emotional value of being in a place. And what amazes me is that this was not a VIP tour. They give cathedral workshop tours. And what I love is it wasn't just kind of checking a cathedral off your list. They call it ABC tour, another bloody cathedral. You didn't do that, right? We were making that moment count, and we understand what it means to that community. This is my family. This is my dad and my sisters. I'm, I think, 11 in this family. And in this picture, and every year when we were young, we would go to Cape Cod. That was our summer vacation, Cape Cod. We always wanted to go to Disney World, and I remember asking my dad why he didn't take us to Disney World, and he said, because you didn't deserve it. That's the truth. He's a very sarcastic man. I love him. But then I got a job where I got to go to Universal and Disney World almost every week. So, why I bring this up is, well, I was in a room with a group of people here in Orlando, Florida, where a child psychologist told me one of the most amazing, most powerful things about travel. And that really changed me. It was before I had kids. And she said that memories of travel for a child are even stronger than other important dates in their lives, like their own birthdays, their own graduations. And one of the reasons why this is so is that when you travel with your kids, it allows your kid to see you be a kid. And what that does for a child's sense of love and security is immeasurable. And why I love that story is as soon as she said it, I was like, you're right. Because we went to Cape Cod every year for like 10 years. And what my sisters and I still remember 40 years later and still talk about was how one night out of the entire week, we would go to a restaurant and all get hot fudge sundaes on waffles. And I would watch my mom, the enforcer of broccoli, right, enjoy a hot fudge sundae the way I, as an 11-year-old, enjoyed a hot fudge sundae. And that's what my two sisters and I, that's what we remember. So she's right. I love that. They allow, your kids get to see you be a kid. So whenever I talk to a group of travelers, I always tell them one thing. You're going to plan a lot, but make sure you always look for the delight. To choose activities that require no mental energy from you other than to have the time of your life, right? And for us, these activities are really, really easy to find. It's just going to where what locals do every single day to enjoy their lives, right? That's where we find them. For instance, in Bern, Switzerland, there's a river that runs through the city, and all the locals have dry bags, and they will walk after work, put their suit in the dry bag, jump off that bridge, and use the river to commute home. Isn't that amazing? And I did it too. It's awesome. In Texas, they go dancing. And not just like, once every 2 years at a wedding, like every single week. And it's young and old enjoying a space together. In China, there are kite clubs in the local squares where they fly everything from tiny handmade dragonflies to over 100-foot trains. And these are different than the squares, the tourism squares, because those kites are for sale. These are not for sale. These are people's passion. And in every instance, the locals are more than happy to share with you what makes them happy. And you don't have to have a lick of a language between you. You get it as people. You get it. We are a part of the same community. We experience joy together. And that is when you make travel count. You know, travel counts in our lives more than we will ever really know, will we? Right? It counts whether we are with 15 members of our extended family or totally solo. It counts whether we are 2 hours from our home or 10,000 miles from it. Travel is one of the few things that we have in our lives that mark a fresh start, a new beginning. And we are all on this journey to understand ourselves, to be better than we thought, for ourselves, our family, our entire communities. And nothing gives us that opportunity like travel. Thank you so much. It was wonderful being here. Thank you.
Let's give another round of applause for Samantha Brown. If I could ask the mayor and our chairman to join me on stage for the grand finale of our program today. It has become a tradition to share our visitation numbers, but what does it mean? This visitation number represents the real impact our industry has on the households that live and work in our community.
And tourism supports nearly 400,000 jobs in our community.
Pretty awesome.
Wow. It generates $5.3 billion in local and state taxes. Taxes from tourism. It helps to pay for arts and culture, education, infrastructure, and public safety.
Yes.
Yes.
Without tourism, each household in Orange County would need to be taxed an additional $6,400 to replace money generated by visitors. And now, how many visitors do we have to thank for those savings in 2022? I am pleased to share that in 2022, Orlando welcomed 74 million visitors. Well, thank you all for coming today. Please share today's events and our exciting news about 74 million visitors and use the toolkit to make sure everyone knows what this number really means. You are also welcome to stop by the new Orlando Health Virtual Care Center on your way out. Thank you for coming today. Have a great week.